Hi there, welcome to Beautiful Disasters. Today I'm talking about Blade Runner, a now famous movie that was initially a complete disaster. This was like early 80s. This film was released, it was a massive bomb, critically not well respected. It was just a disaster and it took a long time to become what it is today. The reason I'm talking about it is, I think it's been, it was because it was underrated to start with, it now got to the stage of it's now overrated. It's like it jumped from being so bashed to being a film you can't bash, when the truth I think is somewhere in between. I'll start off with what initially happened. Initially, Blade Runner was released in 1982. It was released at the same time as the John Carpenter's The Thing, as well as E.T., Wrath of Khan. Lots of films. A lot of films did well. E.T. obviously did brilliantly well. It was like the optimistic sci-fi movie that dominated the whole thing. There was other films like The Thing, which was very dark, that bombed. Then there was Blade Runner, was very dark, that bombed. Even having Harrison Ford as a lead didn't help Blade Runner. It was a massive disaster. The critics didn't like it. It obviously been hacked about, because if you've seen the original version, the theatrical cut of Blade Runner, it is a film that's been hacked about quite a bit. There's a voiceover by Harrison Ford that he sounds very bored. There's a false ending. There's an ending that says everything's going to be alright, which doesn't match up with anything in the rest of the movie. So that's a problem with the film as well. So there are problems. Later on in the early 90s, they released a extended cut of the film. It was released as a film that get rid of the voiceover, get rid of the ending, and was viewed as an improved version of the film. And then in the 2000s, Ridley Scott did a definite cut where he pasted up that extended version into what he thought of would have been his version of the film if he managed to get it finished the way he wanted to do it originally. There was a very good documentary called Dangerous Days on it that's on the Blu-ray and DVD. It's worth watching because you all the details of the production, all the problems, all the reasons why certain things were done. It gets into the idea that they wanted it to appeal to people. They didn't want to make it an esoteric art movie. They wanted to be a dark film noir sci-fi movie that still appealed to people. So it was a very troubled production. It went way over budget. It was very ambitious. So I mean, they were trying to do stuff that was very new at the time and deliver it to the general audiences. And the general audience just said, "No, we don't want this," and it just flatlined. Now I remember this because I was about 10 when it was released. So when it first came out, I was of that generation that was used to Blade Runner being hated. Like that generation I was in is basically the one that said, "This is good. This is a lot better than you think it is. Why is it getting so bashed?" Because there was lots of stuff that appealed, which was like the fact it was very multicultural, which even then you could see that was going in that direction, but the mainstream, it wasn't really seen. It was pretty much you get little bits on TV, but it wasn't something that was a big thing. There was stuff like that. There was the atmosphere, the very dark atmosphere that appealed to a certain type of audience that didn't appeal to the mainstream. I'm sure even now, if Blade Runner was released even now, it wouldn't do that well. We'll see when the sequel's released how it does, but it feels like as a film it's always going to be a niche film because it's so dark, at least visually. And it was also viewed as kind of shoddy in writing. The plot development wasn't that great. And there actually is criticism there you can still make of the film. There actually it's the thing that even now bugs me about the film is there's some problems, but I'll get to that. So I was the generation that was saying this is really good, it's very underrated, you should, it was one of those ones, it was that kind of one of those films that people who liked sci-fi, who were reading all the sci-fi magazines, were all really praising Blade Runner. Blade Runner was the thing, the film that never got its chance, was a film that was underrated. And then a year or two later, newer Manson came out and people started to understand it better. In films like Terminator, when Robocop came out, and what Blade Runner was about became more understandable to people. So that those two films helped a lot, I think, in getting the mainstream attention, because people could go back to see Blade Runner and say, oh, that's... They could see the context of it a little bit more, and slowly built up its audience, and the things that made it feel alienating to start with became understandable. The other thing that went against Blade Runner in the 80s was the fact that after Blade Runner, Ridley Scott went on a massive losing streak as a director for a good 8 years, where he made films that were either like Legend, which were no one understood what the hell he was doing, or there was something like Someone to Watch Over Me, which was well received, but no one really was interested in it. So he was making lots of films in some of the Black Rain, which no one really liked. He seemed to be a director for a time that looked as if he'd been past his peak, like he'd had one or two hits, and that was it. Then he came back with Thelma and Louise, and he started to build himself back up after that. But as a very different kind of director, he wasn't the same guy. He didn't make the same kind of film after that. It was a bit more mainstream, and he would never make a film like Blade Runner again. So there was... So he changed as well. I think after something like Blade Runner collapsed, I think he decided to change his tack and try different type of things. So it was a film that developed and got some good reviews eventually. The various cuts helped, but now it's a case of please don't have another cut, because we've seen there's been 3 of them so far. If you buy some of the DVDs, you can actually get ones that you get the alternative cuts from the old prints as well. So there's a variety of cuts. Now, I should say this straight away, as I'm a big Philip K. Dick fan, and I like the book Blade Runner is based on a lot more than Blade Runner. Like, I read that book because I'd seen Blade Runner. I read the book like when I was about 14 or something. I found the book a lot more interesting than the film. It kind of I wasn't explaining it, because the film and the book are different. They're not trying to explain each other. Just the film's a version of the book that it doesn't actually do a lot of the book. There's lots of stuff in the book that is completely ignored by the film, as any adaptation does. But as an adaptation, we ignore how good a lot of the stuff in Blade Runner is. As an adaptation, the film's a bit of a disaster. As a film itself, it's very good, but as an adaptation, it really doesn't work as an adaptation. It's like, which is actually okay for me, because I like adaptations that do their own thing. Like, I love The Shining as an adaptation because it's his own thing. The thing I like about Blade Runner is the fact that it's his own thing, even though it takes bits from the book. It's not trying to be slavish to the book. So, I mean, to me that's not a criticism, because I think that's what adaptations should do. So, it's not a problem for me. But it is a thing where it is based on a book, but it's only taking little bits and bobs from the book. So, when people say it's an adaptation, it kind of is, but it's not really. It's just like it's if you read something and you take little bits and bobs you like, but you do your own thing with it. That's what it is to the book. The problem is it's tied to the book in really weird ways, which means that it feels like it's taken bits from the book and not understood them, and then expanded them without understanding the basic idea, and it just stretches off. So a lot of things in the film that seem to go on for a long time seems to be like they liked that in the book, so we'll focus on it, but we won't actually explain why it's that way. So, but for a lot of people that makes it mysterious. For me, it makes it kind of annoying. So I'm kind of half and half, even though I like the fact that it does its own thing. In some ways I wish it could go even further and ignore it even more, because at least it wouldn't have those ties. So it's a very complicated issue for me. But the film is a film. Now, the problems I've got with the film now is it got overrated. It went from being a film that was, you could justifiably say this is underrated, this is a lot better than you used to think it is, to being a film that you can't criticise. Oh, it's one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made, apparently. I don't think it is. I actually think that Terminator and Robocop are both much more interesting films. They're much more interesting science fiction films, they're much more human films, they're better characters, they're better pace. And they're films that stick in my head a lot more. And I'm a guy who likes what people would call pretentious art movies. I like that kind of slow moving movies. I really like shots that last for a long time. But Blade Runner, I have a feeling, is a film there are shots last for a very long time for no reason, or shots that could last 2 seconds last 10 seconds because they just want it that way. But a lot of times I feel it doesn't really justify itself, and that's a problem for me in the film, is I think it is slow for no reason. I think the reason it's slow for no reason is the fact that there's not much of a plot. There really isn't one. Basically, it's a bad detective tries to find replicants, and he kills them like a serial killer, or Jason in Friday the 13th movies. He knocks them off one by one. Eventually, a few of them fight back, but they all die. The end. Yeah, that's the story. He has to investigate who they are and what they're about, and the whole idea is an existential idea behind it. That's what the whole film might be about, is like, what if you can meet your god? So I've recreated these robots, really gods to them, which is a old idea, but it's a cool idea. I mean, you can have fun with that idea, but I just get the feeling they never really... They had fun with the visuals of it, but they didn't really have anything beyond the basic questions that you could do with it. They didn't really have any weird complications to it. It was just like Rutger Hauer been shot, you know, as a fallen angel, and that's as far as they ever got. And Rutger Hauer is a really good actor, so he can make it work, but a lot of the time he's spouting complete nonsense. And it's like, but the thing, my theory about Blade Runner is something a lot of people saw when they were 15 years old, and it never got their system. They love it. It's that film that it was romantic and dark. The way a nihilistic story when you're 15 feels really deep, and that was the first love of the kind of nihilism that you get when you're that age, and it becomes the beautiful thing, the personification of that feeling. And that's fine. I think that's valid, because I have lots of films I like that I don't want to look into too deeply, because I love them, but they're not. If I was being honest, they're not great. They're good, but not great. This is that kind of film for me. I just look at it and go, I can respect people loving it because it caught them a certain time in their life, and it's one of those films that feed them over the years, which is great. But to say it's one of the great sci-fi movies after that, it just feels like, I don't think it is. So I mean, I'm into the idea that it was it used these ideas, and it was very slow. But the big thing about the imagery is, if you come from the UK, or you come from an industrial place, anywhere industrial, the imagery is not that unique. Like, one of the things Blade Runner's got is it's the most inventive used world ever, which is not. I mean, yeah, it takes off from the world of Alien, but Alien took off from the world of Star Wars. Star Wars is a much more inventive world that was built than Alien or Blade Runner. It actually is. You look at, despite all the flaws in the films, if you look at the films, they have much greater connection to everybody, because it feels like I've lived in a world and there's something that connects that world to people, the way that Blade Runner doesn't. And it's also, just from watching it, there's much more imagination put into it. Blade Runner really is, you know, a mix of industrial, the British North, where it's always raining, there's all these buildings that are abandoned. We come from Scotland, you're kind of used to that. So even when I saw Blade Runner first time, it did not look unique. It just looked like outside. It just looked like, oh, that's the way the world is. Then you have that mixed with some future tech, which people have clones of eyes and stuff, which is a very basic sci-fi idea. It's done really well here because they shoot it. Certainly Ridley Scott does a very good job of lighting it so it doesn't look fake. But you mix that, and you've also got a lot of Japanese influence as well, and you've got the multicultural thing. You've got all these things that work. Everything comes together to make it work as an experience. But the problem for me is the film is the first 20 minutes were a knockout visually. The story was never a knockout, and then it just keeps going on and on. It's the same again and again and again. So you can enjoy it, but you're thinking, what else have we got? And this film doesn't have that much else. It's just the same stuff or a variation, the same idea. You know, the robots are looking for God, the robots are looking for a reason to live. Well, most people are as well. So that's why I always think the Rutger Hauer speech is a bit, at the end of Rutger Hauer speaking about the things he's seen, it's like, well, everyone's got that. It doesn't really connect to our lives. It just says, this is this kind of precious person, oh how wonderful I am, rather than the common experience of living that everyone goes through. This is much more precious. Again, there'll be a 15-year-old would see the world. Everything I've got is precious. Everything I've seen is precious. Rather than the community, the tragedy of someone dying is part of one of many. So I always think it thinks too much of itself. Again, when I try to find a God, it feels like they're being pretentious. It's just some guy. It's the same thing down in Prometheus, and it looked really dumb there. And here they get away with it because they don't actually go into much detail about it, but it's still not that smart. It's just, it's well directed. The visuals are great. It's keyed into certain religious feelings you'll have, but there are a lot of dumb feelings and a lot of selfish, it's all about self and how wonderful I am and how tragic I am, I'm going to die, and all of these pure things of only a few years of life, and teenagers think they're going to, life doesn't last very long, and it's a very teenager film, and it's just, it doesn't look into the flaws of anybody. It doesn't, it can't even admit that Deckard's a boring character who is really bad at his job, and the twist of Deckard might be a replicant, well who cares? It's a cool idea that they know what he's thinking, but, and doing origami things, that's cool. I had to explain that to people, like when in the 80s is like why they thought he could be a replicant. Kids loved the film but they couldn't figure out all the details. It was like, come on, this is easy. This is easy stuff if you know sci-fi. But I thought it was easy stuff if you knew anything really, because it's very basic setup. But no. But the thing is, even if he's a replicant, why did they program him to be a bad detective? How does that help him find these robots? If he thinks they're a human being, he won't make any of those connections that would make him find the replicants any quicker. It's just, why don't you just have a human do it? And if he's a human, he's had a really bad detective to do it. He's meant to be the best at this stuff, and he's rubbish at it. He gets beaten up all the time, which is fine if they did something interesting with it, but it just feels like they're doing it that way because they're doing it that way. They haven't thought of, why are we doing it this way? What does it mean to the character? Because there's no real character there, it's just this guy who's depressed. And he stays depressed. There's meant to be a love scene, a romance, but the romance doesn't work. It's just these two, this grumpy guy and this oversensitive robot who, again, is that teenage feeling of how wonderful I am, how unique I am. The whole movie's like that. It's like, it's just, it's that kind of how wonderful I am mixed with a kind of dourness and nihilism that again appeals to a certain age, but I think a lot of people who didn't like the film had a reason not to like the film released, even though it was bashed way too much. I think the people who liked it, so there's some good stuff here, but it was never a masterpiece. It was just a good sci-fi film with lots of attention. There's lots of films like that. There's lots of films I like that. But I know better than to think that they're some wonderful bit of genius. They're not. They're just things I like, and a lot of times I like them for my own various personal flaws. And you kind of wish, when you see people don't know how great Blade Runner is, you wish they'd get over themselves and get over their just grow up a bit. It's not, it's this mess. But anyway, that's me with Blade Runner. Hopefully I haven't alienated anyone that much, but it's an annoying film to talk about when you think about the way a lot of people see it as a masterpiece, because they're not explaining why it's a masterpiece. They're just, Well, obviously it is. You know, it's not. You know what? They can't actually talk about what the film is. It's like it looks beautiful. It's unique. It's not really unique. It's building stuff before, and it's well done, but it's not unique. It's based on something else too. So, Blade Runner, the most overrated, beautiful disaster ever. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'll be back soon with the next film, which should be Psycho 98.